Can Bitcoin really lose its value? If you're watching this video, then I'm sure you already know what Bitcoin is, and you're probably thinking about investing in it. Even though the largest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, has been around for quite a while, there's still no shortage of people who are convinced that it will eventually fade into oblivion. To know more about it, keep watching the video. So without further ado, let's get started. Even with its exponential price increase, some detractors argue that Bitcoin will eventually collapse and lose its value. Some investors even debated that Bitcoin is technically worthless and, therefore, can't invest in it. But institutional investors have invested in Bitcoin. These include some prominent companies like Tesla, MicroStrategy, and Square that have now included Bitcoin in their corporate treasuries. Like the Bitcoin revolution, crypto exchanges also experienced a boom. With time, more people and institutions rushed to acquire this virtual currency. Some people say that institutional investment is what caused Bitcoin's bull run. And that proves that Bitcoin, with a market capitalization that exceeds $1 trillion, is going nowhere. Then why would Bitcoin lose all its value? Or can Bitcoin have zero value? Some experts have assessed the possibility of Bitcoin's value collapsing to zero within a day. The historic Bitcoin returns have helped experts to calculate the risk-neutral disaster possibility, and they haven't ruled out the possibility of Bitcoin crashing to zero. Meanwhile, some experts say that this virtual currency will eventually lose its value due to its lack of intrinsic value. But supporters retort this argument by saying that mathematics and consumer confidence back Bitcoin. Both fiat currencies and Bitcoin lack the physical commodity like gold that backed them once, while most people frame Bitcoin in opposition to traditional government money. Thus, they also don't have any intrinsic value. Let's take a look at arguments against Bitcoin. A very common argument against Bitcoin is that it's an elaborate scam by a nefarious group to steal people's hard-earned money, while some say that Bitcoin is a modified Ponzi scheme. Some claim that Bitcoin is not decentralized and a central developers committee controls Bitcoin, so only those in power positions benefit from this virtual currency. But this argument doesn't consider the fact that competent individuals can submit their Bitcoin improvement proposal for consideration. Also, that users can fork the entire protocol if they discover undesirable changes. In addition to that, all miners and nodes can choose the client to run. Some skeptics argue that people overvalue Bitcoin since it lacks utility. But this is not true, because Bitcoin has an increasing database of users. Initially, Satoshi Nakamoto wanted Bitcoin to be a peer-to-peer payment system, but online trading is now the thing that everybody wants to do with Bitcoin. One of the lamest arguments before the cryptocurrency market crash was that Bitcoin had never tested a previous cycle's all-time high prior to a halving event. But then this time around, it did, falling below $19,000, the pre-halving high in 2020. While the incident brought on existential fear of a total collapse, it also raised questions about whether the price of Bitcoin could ever drop below zero and have a negative value. Suggesting the Bitcoin price could go to zero is almost unthinkable because its supply is not affected by the bureaucracies of the current global supply chain. Also, Bitcoin's technical design prevents it from hitting zero, even when the broader market sentiment can continue to stir a sell-off, as the U.S. Commodities Exchange Act concluded that digital currencies such as Bitcoin are a commodity. As the price of Bitcoin fell sharply in the past, both traders and miners were keen to offload their holdings to avoid having to take massive losses. Bitcoin slumped 70% since hitting a peak of $69,000 in November 2021. Bitcoin was trading at $20,400 after bouncing back from an 18-month low about $17,800, which is below the price of $19,000, a high reached in 2020 before halving. The carnage in the crypto market was partly caused by pressure from macroeconomic forces. This included rising inflation and a succession of interest rate hikes by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Bitcoin has no storage costs, so it will not go to zero. For example, the reason why oil had a negative value at some point is that oil storages around the world were filling up fast, and people were willing to pay in order to remove oil stock from their storages. But on the other hand, it is technically impossible that Bitcoin will have a negative value. Cryptocurrency values could fluctuate wildly based on market speculation, but could never be lower than zero, because that would mean that you would have to pay someone to take your coins or tokens. Also, it is hard for Bitcoin to drop below zero because it's a hard supply of currency. But companies that are over-leveraged can possibly go into debt and bankrupt, with the liquidation of their assets to pay their creditors. According to experts, the fundamental technology behind Bitcoin remains sound and has weathered much turbulence since its inception more than 13 years ago. Bitcoin is a key new financial tool that has long-term value and usability. And once global markets stabilize and recover, Bitcoin will recover even faster. While on the other hand, people like commodity trader Peter Brandt continue to stick to the long-time prediction that the price of Bitcoin could potentially collapse to zero. He believes that there is a 50% chance of such a catastrophic scenario unfolding. Brandt also claims that there is an equal chance of the largest cryptocurrency surging to as high as $250,000. Noteworthy that the cryptocurrency has an asymmetrical reward-to-risk trade. Brandt predicted that zero could be Bitcoin's ultimate bottom after the cryptocurrency experienced a massive pandemic-induced crash in March 2020. But what happened? Bitcoin kicked off another bull run just months after that, initially peaking at $69,000. Yes, it is technically possible for any cryptocurrency's price to crash to zero, as seen with the Terra Luna price crash. But for something as popular and valuable as Bitcoin, some huge differences would need to take place for such a catastrophic loss of value. It would be incredibly hard to dissolve the entire Bitcoin network. With the network spread around the globe, it would take the loss of faith or interest of these nodes for the blockchain to be truly destroyed. Destroying Bitcoin wouldn't be easy, as its complex infrastructure gives it a strong foundation that isn't easy to destabilize, even if you are a powerful government. Also, crypto whales have a huge influence on the price of Bitcoin. These individuals or groups own huge amounts of cryptocurrency, which allows them to manipulate the market when they deem it necessary. If they don't want Bitcoin to fall to zero, they can prevent it from happening in certain scenarios. There's no doubt that Bitcoin's price dropping to zero would have a really damaging effect on the crypto industry, but the chances of Bitcoin suddenly crashing are extremely low. Though certain factors could decrease Bitcoin's value over time, it would take some huge governmental and economic changes. This change also includes the destruction of the Bitcoin network itself for Bitcoin to fall to zero in a short period. Furthermore, a Bitcoin crash to zero would be damaging, and the impact on global financial markets is also worth considering. Some experts speculate that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency price crashes would have little impact. But when you consider that some of the biggest cryptocurrency firms, like Crypto.com, Binance, and BitPay, all have sponsorship deals with companies, there is little doubt that at least damage would occur. When the Terra Luna price crashed in 2022, there was almost zero reaction from global financial markets. On the other hand, Bitcoin would likely be a different story. While such a scenario is unlikely, Bitcoin can still technically crash to zero, as Yale University economists estimated in 2018 that the probability of Bitcoin collapsing to zero within a single day due to some extreme black swan event was 0.4%. Regardless of what happens, Bitcoin will most likely have value, and the only thing that can make Bitcoin valueless is if all governments ban it or render it illegal. But this consensus is almost impossible to reach as people would still access their digital wallets and crypto exchanges online. The globally spread nodes, blockchain proposition, and decentralization of the Bitcoin network give Bitcoin value. Thus, Bitcoin can lose some worth, but it is unlikely to lose it all. So that's all for today. Guys, will the largest cryptocurrency crash to zero, or is it highly impossible? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on the fantastic financial content. Until next time.